Hello and welcome. In this training, we will be reviewing the process for completing Preschool Promise eligibility determination. This process must be completed prior to a child starting Preschool Promise services. Families will need to complete the Preschool Promise application and have official eligibility determination before being enrolled into Preschool Promise with the Preschool Promise grantee. During today's training, we will cover the place of eligibility in the Preschool Promise enrollment process, updates from the 2022-2023 enrollment requirements. We'll go over certification of eligibility, including forms, requirements, and processes, documenting eligibility, and look at a few scenarios. Families might complete an initial interest or screening form to determine their interest and potential eligibility for Preschool Promise and other publicly funded early childhood education programs. Next, they need to complete the Preschool Promise application and have their certification of eligibility determined by coordinated enrollment staff. In certifying eligibility for Preschool Promise, families will be asked to show proof of family income or the child's foster care status, the child's age, and the family's address. If families do not have documents to be able to verify one or more of these requirements, they will be asked to use the Early Learning Division provided forms and sign declarations. A complete Preschool Promise application for each applicant child must be submitted by all families who enroll in Preschool Promise, and certification of eligibility must be done prior to the child starting Preschool Promise services. We will cover the requirements for certifying eligibility, methods for collecting complete and accurate information, as well as strategies for treating families with dignity and respect throughout this process. Who can certify eligibility for Preschool Promise? Only those who have been trained on these requirements and processes may certify eligibility. Currently, this is limited to Early Learning Hub staff, Head Start or OPK programs, and tribal Preschool Promise grantees. First, let's look at the requirements for verifying the child's age and Oregon residency. All children who participate in Preschool Promise must live in Oregon, no exceptions. Verify addresses by reviewing documents such as a driver's license, ID card, utility bill, etc. If a parent does not have any of these documents, they may complete the address supplemental form to verify that they live in Oregon. Children must be 3 or 4 years old by the date used to determine kindergarten eligibility. For most districts in Oregon, this is September 1. Verify age by confirming the birth date written on the application form. And keep in mind that the United States is one of the few countries in the world to write dates in a month, day, year order. So it is important to confirm that the child's age is correct for the program. Ask the parent to provide you with an official document bearing the child's age, such as a birth certificate, hospital record, or medical record. If no such document is available, a parent may complete the date of birth supplemental form verifying the child's age. A Head Start or Oregon pre-kindergarten income verification document can be used as proof of residency and date of birth. This income verification must be completed in the last program or calendar year. Proof of age and Oregon residency must be on file with the Early Learning Hub before the Preschool Promise grantee enrolls the child into the program. The next step in the process is verifying that the family meets the income guidelines or that the child is in foster care. Children in foster care do not have to verify income eligibility, but instead families will provide proof of foster care placement. To be eligible for Preschool Promise, families must have incomes at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. This chart also shows 100% of the federal poverty level and 130% of the federal poverty level to support Early Learning Hubs with coordinated enrollment efforts, since Head Start OPK programs have an income threshold of 100% of the federal poverty level. with the ability to serve up to 35% of families with incomes between 101 and 130% of the federal poverty level under certain conditions. To determine a family's income, you must first determine household size based on who is considered a member of the family for preschool promise purposes, and this may be different from how the family identifies themselves. To do this, coordinated enrollment staff will start by identifying the legal parents or guardians of the applicant child. A parent is defined as the applicant child's mother, father, other family member who's the primary caregiver, foster parent, guardian, or the person with whom the child has been placed for adoption pending the final adoption decree. Next, determine who in the household is related to the parents or guardians by blood, marriage, or adoption, and is supported by the parent's income. We will now take a look at some practice scenarios. Let's take a look at a few scenarios to help us understand who is counted as a family member and how the family's income would be calculated. In this first scenario, who lives in the household? A biological mom, biological dad, a 1-year-old child, and their 4-year-old child, who's the applicant child. So who are the legal parents or guardians? Biological mom and biological dad. What is the family size? 4. Here's another scenario. Who lives in this household? An adoptive dad, a 4-year-old child, and the dad's girlfriend. So who are the legal parent or guardians? Adoptive dad. And how many are in the family? 2. Here is the third scenario. Who lives in this household? A biological parent, their 3-year-old child, the parent's mother, the parent's father, and the parent's 12-year-old brother. Who are the legal parent or guardians? The biological parent. And how many are in the family? 2, if the parent is supported by their parents, but 5, if the parent supports their parents and brother. Here's another scenario regarding a child in foster care. Who lives in this household? A mom who's both a biological and foster mom, a dad who's a biological and foster dad, their 4-year-old biological child, and a 4-year-old child in foster care. Who are the legal parent or guardians? Biological foster mom and biological foster dad. And what size is this family? The biological family is 3, and the foster family, 1. And finally, let's look at a scenario regarding shared custody. So who lives in these households? We have the 4-year-old applicant child. In household 1, the child's biological dad, the dad's boyfriend, and the boyfriend's 6-year-old child. In household 2, we have the biological mom, the mom's spouse, and their 1-year-old child. So who are the parent and guardians? Biological mom and biological dad. And what is the family size? We have one individual, the 4-year-old child, plus 1 individual from biological dad's house, and 3 from biological mom's household, totaling 5. We divide by 2 the number of households and round the number up to 3. Once you have determined the household size, you will calculate the family income sources. You must total all family income sources over the verification period to calculate an annual income. There are 3 options for verification period: the previous calendar year, the last 12 months, the 3 most recent concurrent pay stubs. Families are encouraged to present documentation that best describes their current circumstances. If the family can demonstrate a significant change in income for the verification period, a justification for an exception to the verification period must be clearly outlined in writing using the Family Income Statement Supplemental Form. So what counts as income? Income includes wages or salary, net income from self-employment, payments from Social Security or other retirement, payments for unemployment, workers' compensation, veterans benefits, and public assistance, training stipends, alimony, child support, private pensions, government pensions, and regular insurance or annuity payments, college scholarships or grants, dividends, interests, and net rental income, reenlistment benefits, or other periodic income sources. What does not count as income? These are some of the things that do not count as income: capital gains, assets drawn down as withdrawals from a bank or the sale of property such as a car or house, tax refunds, gifts, loans, or one-time insurance benefits, foster care subsidies, non-cash benefits such as employer-paid health insurance, food or housing received in lieu of wages, economic impact payments and federal unemployment supplements authorized by the CARES Act, non-cash assistance benefits such as Medicaid, food stamps, school lunches, or housing assistance, Social Security survivor benefits received by the child, tribal benefits, adoption assistance payments, and veterans disability benefits or VA survivor benefits. Here are some frequently used forms of documentation by income source. Families who have a Head Start or Oregon pre-kindergarten income verification completed for the applicant child do not need to submit additional income documentation if the income verification indicates that the family's income is below 200% of the federal poverty level. And this is new for 2022-2023. This income verification must be conducted within the last program or calendar year. Families with benefit letters for TANF, SNAP, or WIC benefits letters are not required to submit additional income documentation, as these programs require incomes below 200% of the federal poverty level. Some OHP benefits, including CAWM, cards or screenshots of their benefits account for adults who are receiving OHP, also require incomes below 200% of the federal poverty level. When conducting your interview with the family, remember that this process should be confidential, professional, and respectful. While it is important to practice due diligence with the income verification process, consider ways you can do that with minimal barriers to families. Families are encouraged to use the period that best describes their current circumstances. The Early Learning Division allows the receipt of benefits and programs that have lower income eligibility requirements to demonstrate income eligibility rather than calculating it again. If families do not have access to documentation, supplemental forms are always acceptable documentation. Here are the supplemental forms for the Preschool Promise application. Some families may not be able to provide income documentation over the verification periods. For this type of situation, families should be asked to complete a family income statement. Some reasons a family would be asked to complete a family income statement might include that they work for cash and do not receive pay stubs, they are missing pay stubs for part of the 12-month period, they have experienced some circumstances in which they do not have access to documentation, such as a home fire or homelessness, one or both parents report very little or no income, They should describe the non-cash supports used to meet family needs in this case. Similarly, the address or child's birth date parent statement is used when parents do not have proof of their address or the child's age. Lack of these documents should not keep a child from being considered for preschool promise. Families can sign a declaration to confirm the child's birth date and/or the family's address. Since these documents are typically required for kindergarten registration, it is a good idea to provide the families with resources on how to obtain these documents during their time in preschool promise. Let's discuss how you will document and certify the family's eligibility for preschool promise. As discussed earlier, families will need to provide documentation of their income or the child's foster care status, as well as proof of age and Oregon residency. You will make and retain copies of all these documents to keep with the child's application and later in their enrollment file. Please remember to send a copy of the full application to the preschool promise grantee once the child has been placed. If a child is enrolled, the documents will be kept for 6 years, as outlined in grant and contract agreements. You will complete the certification of eligibility form to document the eligibility verification process. This form is found within the preschool promise application. Let's take a look at the form and discuss the documentation requirements. You will see that the form includes the household size and family annual income, a place to check documents required for income verification, the age of the child, documents presented for age eligibility, confirming that the family resides in Oregon, and documents presented for living in Oregon verification. The eligibility certification is good for the entire program year. Any families who have had eligibility determined but have stayed in or returned to the applicant pool may use their existing eligibility determination at any time the child is selected for preschool promise placement. Thank you for watching this refresher training. If you have any questions, please send them to the email below. Thank you for your time.